Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Why Dev Teams Choose Ready-Made CIAM. I'm Jax Painter, Director of Product Marketing here at Okta, and I'm so excited to spend the next 30 minutes or so with you talking about something that's become a game changer for developers and their respective engineering teams. So you're probably here because customer identity is, in some fashion, on your radar. And you want to know what it is, why it matters, and how does it impact your role or even the larger organization. And one of the main things that you'll take away is that building and maintaining customer identity can be really, really hard. It's not easy. It takes time, it takes resources, and it takes a ton of expertise. And a lot of that time could be better spent building your actual product, the core innovation for your company. And that's why today we're going to talk more about why developers are choosing a customer identity solution that's already ready-made instead of building and rolling it out on their own. So with that, let's get started. So the one thing about customer identity is that it's everywhere. And most of the time, a lot of us just don't think about it day to day. What I personally love about customer identity, and really what's key to understanding it, is that we all experience it every single day. So whether you're shopping online, you're logging into your banking app, or you're accessing your patient portal, in my scenario, I am a mom of two. I have to log into their school portal so that I can make sure that I'm paying fees, I'm up to date with signatures that are needed for field trips, and that I'm able to make sure that they have enough money in their lunch account so that they can get treats. And so everybody has these interactions with customer identity, and they don't realize it. Customer identity is really making sure that the interaction is seamless and easy, but also that it's secure. Um, and a lot of times, I think a lot of us probably have the opposite of a seamless and secure user experience. And so that's why making sure that you pick the right customer identity solution is so important. So what is customer identity and how does it work? So in layman's terms, it's how companies let their users access their digital properties, and it's how customers can engage with those services through registration and login, being able to consent to the data, to their data that's being used. And it's also a means and a way for customers to share and update their preferences and directly engage with your service day in and day out. So a lot of people think that customer identity is just a sign up box. In reality, it's much more than that. We say that here at Okta that it's, go beyond just the login. It's really the foundation of your entire digital experience that you provide for your customers. And identity orchestration, which is basically making sure that the right data flows to the right places, drives everything. And so why does this matter? When customers are interacting with you across different channels, they expect consistency and they also expect a personalized experience wherever they go. But at the same time, it needs to be secure. They want their data protected, they want their privacy respected, and they also want their preferences honored. And so when you're able to get customer identity right, you're really able to unlock cross-channel continuity or a better omni-channel experience. So now your customer doesn't have to start over on every device that they use. You get personalization that you're able to provide for your customers. And so you really make sure that your customers feel seen, and that the experience that they're getting is very authentic. And then loyalty, which I think is one of the most important things. If your customers have a smooth experience, they're going to keep coming back. I can attest to this. When I interact with Chick-fil-A or Starbucks, or even my banking application, I prefer to use their loyalty apps or their banking applications because it's easy and I trust them. I also get personalized experiences. So Chick-fil-A knows that my son loves chocolate milkshakes. And so whenever I spend enough money, they provide me coupons for chocolate milkshakes. King Soopers is a great example, which is a grocery store here in Colorado. And this is a great way where they interact with me. I log into their application. I order groceries online quite a bit because we're busy. And then once a month, I get coupons to use based off of my shopping history. I love that because it keeps me going back to King Soopers day in and day out. So all of this sounds great, but being able to get it right is very hard. It's not easy. And that's because there's a ton of moving targets. And this is a very complex graph. We will get into it. But essentially, as your business grows and expands and you add more systems and features and flows to better secure and optimize that customer experience, identity complexity also grows. And this can also lead to fragmentation. So when your technology becomes fragmented, so does identity. And this creates a lot of inconsistencies across the user experience for your developers, but it also poses a lot of security threats. So let's take a pause and look at what's in front of us. This is an identity growth curve. And so on the x-axis, you've got time. And on the y-axis, you have developer time spent in identity. And so as you can see that as your business grows and evolves, the complexity of identity grows along with it. And that's because identity orchestration requires several things. So for example, integrations across tech stacks, including consent management and security tooling for traceability, agility to integrate to new tech and technologies like security tooling or even authentication protocols. And then because most integrations with identity systems are done through APIs, there's also instances where we need to make sure that we're securing those APIs. And all of this has to be achieved through minimal latency, while also making sure that the customer experience remains frictionless and seamless. And a balance is often traded with all these constant pressures on developers to have to navigate all of these requirements. And at the end of the day, this really comes at the expense of the innovation for your company. So when organizations evaluate whether they should buy or build their own identity solution, there's three key factors that really drive that decision that we're going to talk to. It's time to market, it's security, and it's the customer experience. And when you buy a customer identity solution, it accelerates your time to market. And it allows your business to deploy and secure and scale authentication in a matter of weeks versus months, and in a lot of instances, years. So if you instead of investing in a costly development and costly maintenance, teams can really focus on core products while they're leveraging a solution that provides the continuous updates. And so one of the interesting things is that Okta conducted our own survey where we uncovered that 88% of organizations that use third-party SaaS platforms for authentication reported a reduced time to market, which is huge. The other factor is really security. It's another major concern that a lot of organizations are considering when they're thinking about building or buying. Homegrown solutions, I will say, really struggle to keep pace with all of the evolving threats that we're seeing that happen in the market. On top of that, there's compliance regulations that they have to keep on top of that keep adding up every year. And those can be really hard to manage. And you have to be an expert sometimes in that space. And then best practices. So we're always seeing identity and access management practices change. We started with SMS. We've moved over to biometrics and passwordless. So having a development team that is an expert in these areas can be really, really hard. And that's why, leaning on a customer identity solution that can really just manage your identity solution can be really important, but also make sure that you're staying on top of security that maybe you wouldn't be able to do if you were building your own solution. And Finally, customer experience. It's so critical. I think I stated this in just the experiences of me, of a customer and consumer, and even a parent. Um, so the goal here is that you don't have to sacrifice experience over security, and that you're able to provide frictionless security, frictionless authentication, and seamless logins where the customer doesn't necessarily recognize how difficult it is to log into an application, but then also balance that and provide single sign-on and adaptive security measures without that complexity of having to manage federation or third-party identity provider logic in-house. And then you have a customer identity provider that really can handle those protocols like OAuth or OpenID Connect. And so these are just a few considerations um, that need to be investigated and thought about as you're determining if it makes sense to build or buy a solution. One of the key things that I think is really important is that not all customer identity solutions are built the same. And so when you outsource a CIAM solution, your your development teams need to be armed with key features that allow them to really evolve as customer identity evolves. And one of those main features is extensibility. So, extensibility is really where the magic happens. When you have a ready-made customer identity solution, your developers can instantly activate features and customize and orchestrate identity flows across their tech of choice, which is huge. And this really enables a couple of things to happen. So, identity-based personalization that's driven by real-time activation of identity insights and customer data is really important. Having the ability to detect and orchestrate response to identity threats in real time. And then also having the assurance that your identity infrastructure will scale, and that's all done through extensibility. And this is really in contrast to best of suite CIAM solutions. So a lot of best in suite CIAM solutions lack that flexibility because they don't have that extensibility feature. They are forcing businesses to really conform to their predefined features and their vendor roadmaps. Whereas if you purchase a customer identity solution that is kind of free of all that, you're really able to tailor your customer identity to your needs, and it can grow with your strategy over time. So really it prevents vendor lock-in and it limits integration capabilities, and it makes when you have the vendor lock-ins, not only does it limit your integration capability, but it makes future scalability very challenging. So now let's dig into some real world scenarios facilitated by an extensible customer identity solution in action. So if we look at the authentication pipeline, there are three key stages: before, during, and post authentication. And with extensible customer identity, you can really customize and extend identity flows at all of these different points. So for instance, let's say a even before a user is able to authenticate, the CIAM solution would monitor for anything suspicious and trigger a challenge if something is detected. So this is really ensuring that only real people are signing up. During the authentication phase, an extensible solution can configure to redirect to third-party consent management systems before creating an account or granting access to an application. And then post-authentication, customer data and insights that are collected from the interaction, such as from where, when, and how the customer is accessing the application, can be synced to a CRM or a CDP system to really help build and enrich your customer profiles. So now let's look at this from a customer lens. When you have a ready-made extensible solution, you can implement low friction authentication to reduce sign up and login friction. So things like what I just spoke about, passwordless biometrics or social login. And when you remove barriers of entry for identification, you can really convert those potential customers from unknown or to repeat customers. How many times have we, as consumers and customers, started to sign up for something and they asked so many questions or provided so many barriers to just get that account created that you abandon the entire registration process. And so during the sign up and login process, you need to be able to provide something that it's a little bit more progressive. And this is called progressive profiling questions that are based on context such as like prior interactions or conditional logic. So missing profile data. And this really helps understand their preference, collect feedback, and there's a ton that you can do with that. And then lastly, when you have this ready-made CIAM solution, you can consistently make sure that you're providing a better customer experience. So as their identity continues to be activated and orchestrated across your tech stack, such as analytics or MarTech systems, you can create more personalized interactions, giving you the Chick-fil-A example, for instance, or the King Soopers example. It was very easy to create an account. I did it based off of progressive profiling and conditional logic. And so it made that kind of phased approach into creating an account really easy. And then they're able to then take my data across the application that I'm using, whether it's in-store or online, and provide really personalized, impactful experiences that keep me coming back to those organizations. So you don't have to take my word for it. These are some of the companies that have achieved what I've spoken about, leveraging Auth0 or a ready-made CIAM solution that has that extensibility that allows for flexibility and allows to grow with you as your strategy grows and business grows and evolves and changes. So one example is an open source software company that was able to implement IoT and Android logins into their IoT cloud application in a matter of just 2.5 days. We have another example of Alma Media. This is a media and service company that is operating in 11 European countries with more than 100 websites. And they streamlined identity across all of their sites. And because of this, they were able to bring this ecosystem under one unified login experience, they were able to accelerate their time to market by 50%. So again, these are just a couple of examples, but this is real customers that have been able to provide better customer experiences, but also help their dev teams get to market quicker. So again, just to reiterate, to address the key reasons of being able to purchase a CIAM solution instead of building one, the solution needs to be extensible. So extensible platforms accelerate time to market by enabling rapid adoption. And again, this seamless integration, they allow businesses to quickly incorporate and customize features like adaptive MFA and progressive profiling, like I mentioned. And then they're also able to really efficiently integrate and orchestrate identity across all of their existing systems. And they're not locked into one kind of vendor's ecosystem. And instead of identity building features from scratch, dev teams can really easily customize a lot of those different authentication flows, those user interfaces, and also those security policies that need to fit to specific business needs or use cases. And so this really includes securing the entire customer journey without adding unnecessary friction. Again, having that balance between customer experience and security. And then progressively collecting customer data to create that unified, actionable profile for your customer, and then being able to activate those insights to really optimize and continue to make sure that that customer comes back again and again and again. And then lastly, one of the great things about Auth0 is that we're already on AWS. So we make it really easy to get started. So if you are using AWS, we want you to know that this will even increase your time to market because you get all those pre-built integrations and all those benefits that AWS has to offer. And then lastly, if you want to learn more, please check out all of the different offerings that we have for customer identity. We have several options depending on your organization, so feel free to reach out and learn more. Again, a free plan all the way to self-service, Auth0 for startups, but also a nonprofit offering, which can be really beneficial and helpful for a lot of companies. And with that, I will leave it to Q&A. Let me pull up the chat here and see if there are any questions. I see a couple have come through. One question here is, what are some of the things you can see that cause startups or smaller companies to fail in terms of growth? This is a great question. So a lot of times, and speaking with customers, is that a lot of companies aren't necessarily looking at their strategy long term. They're not looking out past 12 months, and this can greatly impact them. So in order to grow and scale, your company needs to ensure that you can continue to secure your own data and the data of your end users while making sure that user interface and user experience is really top notch. And the heart of that is identity. So if you think of identity last, a lot of times that will impact the growth of your company. Identity is really a strategy for how you interact with your customers and how you scale your business. And if you can get identity right first, it really helps make sure that you have a successful long-term strategy in place. A question came in about, I'd like to learn more about AWS and the partnership there. How can I learn more? Very great question. A really good place to start is auth0.com/partners/AWS. And this will just help give you a better understanding of the basics of our partnership. Of course, if you want to learn more, you can contact sales. You can reach out to me in LinkedIn. I'll make sure I get you connected to the right people. But I do encourage you to read more and see if it makes sense for you. And I think those are the couple questions that came in. But thank you so much. And thank you for being a part of customer identity.